All right, I wanted to give y'all an insider look at, and we're going to just focus on three guys that a lot of folks have been talking about behind the scenes. One of them is at a position that Georgia really needs to have performance from, and the other two guys are playing the same position. They just didn't play at Georgia last year. So, um, in Georgia's 2024 season, these guys actually might not necessarily even be starters, but they're jumping out right now, and that may lead to them being starters. We'll see how things go in time and injury and so forth. But the guy I'm going to start with is Branson Robinson. It's clear he's catching people's eyes. Now, again, I always, and I will do this with every single person I'm going to talk about on this video, but what we don't know is Branson's been fully cleared. Kirby talked about that a long time ago, but they kind of have a restrictor plate on him for those of you who watch NASCAR. He's only going to do so much, which is probably smart considering he's coming off such a serious injury and not even being, I think we're right on top of a year from when he got hurt. He was sorely missed a season ago. And I don't know if part of what I don't know is if folks are so happy to see him back that they're sort of overdoing it in terms of what he's looked like, or like he's legitimately looked that good. People don't just sort of make stuff up, okay? They want, they want things to go well, but they don't just sort of pick things out of a hat. I mean, if that were the case, you'd be hearing about just random people, third string tight end, which we really not heard that. With Robinson, we have heard that he's really played well. He's not the only running back that's been in that position. The other guy from that same spot that we keep hearing about is Nate Frazier, who, a California-based kid who's in Athens. Georgia just had success with Kendall Milton at running back. And with Frazier, people just keep mentioning, and how good, I don't know the answer to that, but he definitely is being mentioned a lot, and we already know what Trevor Etienne can bring to the ball game. All right, he's explosive. He's really good catching the ball out of the backfield. He was one of two guys at Florida that were actually dangerous, and you had to deal with them. Pearsall being the other. He had a limited offensive line at Florida. He's got the capability to really be dangerous in this Georgia offense in 24. Mike Bobo was talking yesterday about how they want to be explosive, but they want to be physical. I think Etienne gives you both, but he's not going to be the running back the whole time. If you're 1, 2, 3, or I don't know that Robinson and Frazier are the 2 or the 3, or even they could be the 1, they could be the 4s. I'm not smart enough to say that, but if your 3 is Robinson, Frazier, or Etienne, or one of those guys is going to be your number 4 running back, whatever you want to call it, number 4 in quotations. I mean, that's a lot of skill at running back, and you have a quarterback who is allegedly, a number 1 overall draft pick candidate. He is, not allegedly, he is a Heisman Trophy favorite front runner. I haven't looked at it lately. He's either number 1 or number 2. Carson Beck has got a lot of people are all over his potential and his what will be in 2024. I mean, Mike said yesterday that he was locked in. He'll be locked in, and talking about how important Carson is for this team. Well, the offensive line is really important for this team because they're protecting Carson. They're imposing their will if they're doing it the right way on the defensive line. And these running backs, if you have a 2014 running back room or even a 2017 running back room with this offensive line and this quarterback, we have not seen a quarterback like this with Todd Gurley, Sony, and Nick and Keith Marshall, and I mean that 14 backfield was just stupid. Brendan Douglas was their fifth best running back, and he was a pretty good number 5 running back. So that I don't know. They didn't have in Hudson what they've got in Carson. 2017, Georgia, Jake Fromm, like he didn't even throw 10 balls against Florida. That this offense could be explosive if they get some of this stuff right with the combination of the quarterback, the running backs, the offensive line. The receivers will do their part, okay? But if these running backs are as good as people are talking like, and I always am hesitant about that until we actually see it, then you're talking about some serious firepower that Mike Bobo's got to work with. And not only just firepower, but the ability to grind games out. Like think about the Missouri game a season ago. That was a dogfight, and everybody, nobody wants to give Missouri credit, and that typically that's been fine. But this past year's Mizzou team was legit. I mean, the quarterback is good, Cook is good, Luther Burden. I mean, if he doesn't go in the top 15 in the NFL draft, something really weird's happened. Okay, that guy might be the best player in the SEC. Just saying. So. They were tough. And in that game, Georgia had to grind that game down. You weren't just explosively beating Missouri. Georgia totally could play Missouri for the SEC championship in Atlanta. They totally could play them in the playoff. Like, that's possible. And in games like that, games like against Alabama, you're going to have to grind things out. You need an offensive line. You need running backs to get you, 3 yards or 2, like to make. If you turn around and hand it off on first down, if it's 2nd and 6, you have won in a huge way if you're trying to salt the game away. Okay? So there's all that. The final guy that's sort of been talked about, maybe not as much as the running backs because he doesn't have the ball in his hand the whole time, is Jamal Jarrett. Now, he's a guy that Georgia really needs to perform. You're not going to miss him when he's playing. Okay. He is a massive person. And, the reason that, this is my opinion. The reason they brought him in was to be Jordan Davis. And he is hard to miss at 6'5", 350. That's a big person. And, if he can, he's another guy from North Carolina. There's a lot of similarities there, but he did not play like Jordan's senior season in his freshman season. Well, Jordan didn't do that either, right? So I think with Jarrett, you also have Hall. You've got guys, okay, but Jarrett, I think, is someone that is maybe important in a way that other guys aren't because of the position he plays. Like Oscar Delp may be a better player. I don't know. You understand what I'm trying to say here? That spot is important for Georgia. You've got to have guys that are sort of able to establish a beachhead, establish, that you're just not going to run, or at least you're not going to run in this sort of 4 or 5 yard area. I mean, when you can do that, or if you can do that, it's that makes things really tough for the other team. And Georgia had the ability to do that in 21 and last year, and in 22. But in 23, Georgia took a pretty decent step back in run game defensively, and that's guys like Jarrett who have had a good practice so far. They're gonna have to show up in the fall. Being that size, it's going to be challenging for him to play a lot. But they need him to be good when he's in there. And this Georgia team has got what it needs to be really successful. And on the defensive line, you got Mikael Williams, who is really good. You've got, you know, Hall, Jarrett. I'm just looking here at everybody. You've got the Carolina transfer. You got Brinson. You've got Ingram Dawkins. I said the Carolina. You got McLeod as a Carolina transfer. You got Stackhouse. We're going to see with guys like Jordan Thomas. There's Christian Miller, another player. They got players, but they do not have. It doesn't seem yet. They don't have Jordan. They don't have Travar. They do not have Walker. They do not have either Walker, Quay, or his cousin. They don't. You know, Devontae Wyatt. They just were just so loaded up. Trayvon, Jordan, Devontae. That was like Jalen Carter didn't start that season. I mean, it's insane. So can Georgia, with what they got with Jarrett, can they get where they need to go with those guys? Jamal Jarrett's going to matter a lot for Georgia. And those are the three guys that have popped out so far, kind of more than anybody else. Quarterback, that's always so hard to know because the number one usually takes a lot of snaps and all that stuff. So there's these guys continuously, I hear about them, and we're gonna see. I mean, we're going to see what the future holds. But in terms of the excitement from insiders, I'd start with those three. Thanks for watching.